Going on YouTube? So this is going to be a preview video of a series of videos that I'm going to be releasing sometime in the fall. So usually I do Honda Odyssey related videos and content and everything on my YouTube channel, but I've been busy working on my camper, which I actually use to go on my Odyssey related events and everything. So you may have seen the camper in like videos and pictures and stuff, but it's always been in the background. I started working on a renovation project about 3 months ago. Really, maybe even starting last year, to be honest. But there's been a lot of projects on this camper, and I tried to record as many of them as I could, minus a couple that I'd started a long time ago that I didn't think about. And this video is just going to be showing you all the projects that I did do, so you'll be interested and excited to see what's going to come out in the future. And it's not really how-to guide, although I'm going to be doing a lot of step-by-step kind of stuff. I'm going to be talking about what I'm doing in those videos and everything. But I'm not really telling you how to do it. I'm just showing you what I did for my stuff. So for those of you guys that don't know, I have a, let me get out here. My truck camper that I take on all my events and everything. This is a 1999 Ford F350 Super Duty. With the 7.3 liter diesel on it. Has about 165,000 miles on it. And I bought this, I don't know, about 6 or 7 years ago, and been a very faithful truck. A lot of stuff going on underneath that hood. It is not stock. A lot of stuff, upgrades and everything. Anyways, on top of that is my 10.6 Bigfoot camper. This camper is built in 2001, I think, or 2000, I think December of 2000 actually. And been a great camper, been really faithful for everything I've done. So what I want to do is I'm going to take you through a lot of the modifications that I've done, and show you why I did it, explain it, and then like I said, in the fall I'll go into more depth on how I actually did it. So with that, I'm going to get started here. Okay, so one of the first modifications I've done is actually, it's one that's not even visible, but if you look underneath here, let's see here and all the way across, all the way over to there, you'll see some aluminum. This is 3x5 inch, I think it's 8th inch, maybe even thicker than that. It looks pretty thick. Aluminum box tubing. And in order to put the camper on the truck, we needed to actually raise the camper up so to clear the cab of the truck. And as part of that, I actually made a cradle that would hold the camper in place. And I'll try and insert some pictures and stuff of that. I didn't do any video, but I do have a couple of pictures of what that cradle looks like without the camper on it, so you can see the entire thing. I also, when I was doing this project or getting ready for it, I did open up all my holding tank compartments, and there's like these little seatbelt strap things that are supposed to hold it all in. All that stuff was falling apart, sagging and everything, so the tanks were sagging all the wrong way. So I straightened all that stuff up to make sure that the tanks actually set the right way. That gave me about an extra 20% of my water capacity, because before it was in a position so it wasn't draining correctly, and also some more capacity on the gray tank. All right, so the reason why I did the cradle was because one of the changes that I want to make was removing the jacks. Now, my camper stays on my truck pretty much permanently. It never comes off. And so why have the jacks? The only reason I ever had it was to make sure that the camper was centered inside the truck. The cradle helps with that. Now pretty much everything stays aligned as it should. I removed the jacks and ended up saving something like 165 pounds worth of weight by taking these things off. They do need to be rebuilt, in these brackets. Honestly, I need to remove them and do some powder coating. That'll be a future project. But the jacks themselves, they're pretty tired. They need some help. So this came off. I'll probably keep them off anyways until I actually need to lift the camper back up, at which point we'll put them back on, do the work, whatever we need to, and then we'll just keep them off. No point in hauling around 165 pounds of metal for something I'm never going to use. So one of the next major projects that I did on the camper, this is a long time ago, is these stairs. Now these are, if you have a Bigfoot camper, a 10.6, these are basement model campers where the deck of the of the camper itself is like right here. This is what you'd walk on, and everything below is what's considered the basement. And on this side over here, you have holding tanks and all sort of stuff. And on this side, you have this really long compartment that goes all the way through. Now, one of the complications is that the original version of this camper, the stairs come off right here. You can even kind of see some of the old screw points where the old scissor ladder stairs went. And those stairs are really, really unstable. Couldn't stand them. Really, really flimsy. I think they're called Brophy steps or something like that, if I remember correctly. And, you know, they worked for a few years, but wasn't happy with them. So I wanted to upgrade it, and what I wanted to do was come up with a way to be able to get access to this compartment without having to flip these steps up, opening the door. I mean, it was just kind of a big hassle and everything. So I cannot take credit for this design. This came from someone else in the RV.net truck camper forums. Goes by HMS Beagle, really nice guy. He came up with this design. So what I have here is a pin. I'm gonna remove this bolt like that and flip this out, swing out my steps, and now I got easy access to my compartment. And when I'm done, flip it back in, drop it in, put the pin in. Now, what's great about this, I can actually stand on these steps. In fact, 90% of the time, I put my foot here, I grab a hand up here, and then I lift myself onto these steps. And I don't have to put the steps down or anything like that. In this case, if the wife or kids were with me, pull these suckers out. Again, these are the torque lift glow steps, and these actually have an adjustable deal here, so I can pull this down. There we go. So now it's nice and solid. These are upgraded feet, mainly because the original ones were aluminum. I proceeded to drag them by accident because I forgot to put the steps up one time. It's actually one of those days where I was like, oh, I've never done this yet. That's a great thing. And then literally that same day, drag the steps. But anyways, these little feet here were like 12 bucks on Amazon. If you have to replace this entire thing, torque lift one's like 200 bucks, which is a completely ripoff. But these have worked out fantastic, so really happy with them. Anyway, so to get into the camper here, we'll go on to our next upgrade. Okay, our next upgrade is actually in the bathroom here. This one I did years and years ago, 2020 I think, because I did it just before our COVID road trip and everything, which is another story. So in here we have the bathroom. Now, those of you guys that have a standard Bigfoot, maybe I'll try to insert a picture in here, know that the original sink actually was a big sink that kind of came out here. You can see where the original holes were and everything, and it was just massive. And the toilet itself was kind of in this corner, but the problem is when you lifted it up, it would actually hit against this, but against the corner, so it wouldn't go all the way open. It was kind of like a partial open, which is a real big pain. So I actually came up with this design, and just a really narrow thing, and that kind of hides most of the openings and stuff. I got a little compartment there for air fresheners and shampoos and extra toilet paper and everything. There's technically a sink here, and honestly, if I was to do this again, I wouldn't even do the sink in here. It's really a waste. Ideally, what I'd really like to do is actually center this just to give more room, because it is a little bit tight. But it is actually easier to sit on than what it was before. But in the real world, it'd be nice to have this come over, just get rid of this thing completely. Maybe a future project. But this upgrade overall has been a nice one, just because we get a little more storage. You don't have this big sink that's in the way, and the toilet lid actually comes up all the way. So this has been a pretty good upgrade. All right, so now I'm on the roof here, and I'm going to show you some of the upgrades on the roof. Now, initially when I had the camper, it actually had a little tiny 60-watt solar panel over here. It was a hard shell solar panel, and it worked okay. Actually, I don't think I've ever used it. Well, whatever. But it wasn't obviously enough. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I actually added these panels. this one, and this one. So these are 200 watt thin film solar panels. And I really like these because they're actually taped on with the Eternabond tape. I have some double-sided tape on the inside as well, and they're holding up great. Like, they have not come off or been any sorts of problems and anything. So I knew that I wanted to add more capacity, but the thing was, I had a huge air conditioner unit here, and I'll try to insert a picture of what it looked like before. And this air conditioner basically took up the entire space of where this panel is. On top of that, it sat, I think it was like 15 inches tall. Like, it was this massive thing, and it weighed 103 pounds. And I never really liked it. It was loud, it was noisy from the inside. It wasn't very efficient. If you had to run it, you'd have to plug in a shore power or use a propane generator, and you couldn't do that for very long because the generator would get too hot, blah blah blah. So I decided that I was going to remove the AC from the camper, and that freed up space for 100, 200, 300, 400 watts of solar. Technically I could get another probably 100 watts there, and even if I upgraded the panel size up here, I could even get more, but honestly, for what I'm doing, I think 400 watts is plenty fine. Another upgrade I did, I'm going to talk about it later, but I'll show you while I'm up here on the roof, is I changed out this vent, and this actually has a fan in it. I'll show that on the inside. And I went ahead and just used Eternabond tape to seal it. And the reason why, I don't want to do any lap seal. Honestly, the Eternabond tape, it's worked really, really well for me. I think it sticks to fiberglass roofs really nicely. You got to clean it, obviously. If you had a rubber roof, you probably wouldn't want to do this, but I'm going to roll with it. Now, I do have double-sided Eternabond tape around the perimeter of the unit itself, so that gives a nice complete seal. And then this white stuff is the outside perimeter, so it's basically double sealed. If it rains, I'll be surprised, but I can always go back and add a little bit more lap seal. So that's pretty much it on the top of the roof. I will point out, I did add these just a couple days ago. Kind of hard to see, I'll probably show it from the inside. I did some of this reflective type stuff on the skylights, because honestly, all the skylights did was just let in a bunch of heat. If I had to order a camper, I would not order skylights. I think that they were a fad, and all they do is just introduce heat and another area for leaks in the inside. If I was really good at fiberglassing, I would pull these suckers out and glass them over completely, and then have space for even more solar. But they're here, so anyways, I'm going with it. All right, let me show you on the inside what we did with that vent over there. Okay, so I'm here inside the camper, and we have this vent here. Now, initially this was not a power, there's no fan here. And that was, it was nice to have some ventilation, but the problem was, like, if you're sleeping and it's hot, one of the things about these Bigfoot campers is they're very well insulated, which is great, except for during the day, there's a lot of heat that gets built up into the camper itself, and it gets into the walls, and basically everything gets warm. And then at night, when everything's cooling down, the camper itself is still warm because it's so insulated and trying to get airflow and stuff out. Now, there was this fan up here, and you could turn it on, open it up, obviously, turn it on, and get some airflow, which was pretty nice. The problem with that is that you couldn't get any real air fans or anything over here where you're trying to sleep. So I did add this fan, and of course it's just a regular, I think it's an off-brand Fantastic fan, but turn it on, real nice. And it's actually dual direction, so this is actually blowing air inside, which is really nice because now you got some airflow movement here. So that will work out nicely. Now, one of the issues I had was I didn't have any power over here, and that was kind of a problem because I wasn't sure I was going to get power there. So what I decided is just to run this little track from this light and came over, and it's working fine. So that's been a nice upgrade. Really happy to have that. All right, let me go to the next upgrade that we did on this camper. Okay, so this is still an ongoing project because it's not complete, but if you look, you can see that the countertop does not look like a normal Bigfoot camper. And long term, the plan is to actually paint the entire interior. And I'll probably show that as part of this video series. By the time I'm done for the season, we hope to have it painted, but it just depends on some trips and time and other things that's going on in my life. But this was one of the first major steps that had to happen. Now, what I wanted to do is I wanted to remove the old stove and oven, because honestly, the oven, it never really worked well. It tended to burn things more often than cook them very well. And so it's just more weight than anything. The stove here, it's just a simple RecPro 2-burner propane stove, and it goes in real nicely. The other nice thing is that we now have even more countertop area, which is really nice for your prep and everything like that. And then we change the sink out to a stainless steel sink, which gives it a nice look. The original sink was actually a little smaller. I kind of wanted a smaller sink because I wanted to maximize the amount of countertop area. But this is basically the smallest stainless steel sink that I could find that was affordable and available. So this is what we're going with. In future projects, again, the goal or idea is to paint the entire interior of the camper. So that's why this looks a little fish out of the water at the moment, but it's a nice upgrade for the future. Now, as part of removing the stove, we now have, let's see if I can see it here, we have this really nice place to put our appliances. So we got the coffee maker over here, we got a blender over here, we got another coffee maker, and then we can put more stuff as we need to. So that's been really cool. I think the wife is really gonna like that. So that's that was one of the major projects that we did. But now let's get to the biggest project of this entire series. Let me show you guys. Okay, so you guys saw when I was up on the roof, you heard me comment that I'd removed my air conditioning from the camper, and which is true. But I did not get rid of air conditioning out of this camper. I actually put it into the dinette. So here is my new AC unit. I bought this, if you're wondering where I got it off of AliExpress. My first, probably last time buying off of AliExpress. But unfortunately, you can't find these things in the US. If you find them, they're between $2,000 and $3,000, which is really pricey. I paid $580 for this unit, and then like $250 for shipping, which is pretty crazy. It's a little more expensive now. It's like $630, but I think for what I got, it was a really good deal. It's a 7,000 B2 unit. It's actually a 24 volt DC air conditioner. And in order to run it in 12 volt, they actually give you like a 12 volt to 24 volt converter, which actually, I'll show you guys, lives all the way back over there. So that's the 12 volt to 24 volt. And that was actually really nice because the wires are on the left right here. Those are the 24 volt leads. And if you look on the right, those are the 12 volt leads. And my 12 volt leads are only like 2, maybe 3 feet long. And then the 24 volt leads, they have to run all the way through here, all the way through here, all the way over here, all the way over here. And then they pop out somewhere around there. So anyways, now I still have a little bit of work to do on this. This is not 100% complete. It is working. I mean, I'll show that in a second here, but I wanted to vent this out the side and not go through the floor. Technically, I could have gone through the floor because what's over here is the bed rail, but I didn't want to cut any fiberglass that wasn't cut. And so I had to modify this. So I cut an opening over here because actually the vents are typically on the bottom. So if you looked at the bottom of this air conditioner, this area here would have been for the intake. And then there is a little square over here for the exhaust. Again, maybe I'll try and put a picture of that, but that would be on the bottom of the unit. And we needed to go out the side for the intake and then out this side for the exhaust. So I just cut holes and then I've kind of adapted. This setup here is kind of temporary. I heard this was actually my mock-up tubing. I wasn't intending to run this. I was actually looking to do some 3D printed stuff, and I still will, except my 3D printed stuff isn't ready before my next trip. So Initially, I went with some like 3-inch kind of dryer duct stuff, and I found out that it was way too airflow restrictive, which was a problem. And so I ended up going back to this temporarily, because it's still restrictive as well. It's got all these little joints and stuff on the inside, which makes it not very laminar flow, but it does work, so I'm gonna roll with it. Let me show you the outside real quick, because that was a nice part of this in order to make it look nice and clean. So here's the outside of the camper. So here's my intake and here's my exhaust. Now, if you're wondering why these are two different sizes, it's because this is what's reflective of what was on the AC unit itself. This is a 3-inch exhaust. I'm going to go up to 4-inch because honestly, I think even trying to account for this is way too restrictive. And I think if I open this one up and go with my 3D printed parts, it's going to look a lot better. But you can see how this looks. And what I really like about this is that this is a gasket. I don't have any sealant or lap sealant or anything on the top of this. I may still do that if I have any water issues, but I custom designed this, and then I have manufacturing for another business, and so I asked my guys, hey, can you laser cut this out and build it for me? And they did. If you happen to need something like this, let me know. I can hook you up with one of these if it's a project that you're going to undertake. All right, so let's go in and let's see that AC at work. Okay, so here's the AC unit, and we have our power over here. Now, this is kind of, I'll do a mini little upgrade thing here. This is a shunt battery system here. So this tells me my amperage that's currently coming in from my solar panels, my consumption, all that sort of fun stuff. And this is like 30 bucks. They don't sell it on Amazon, unfortunately, at least that I could see. And but I bought this probably 5-6 years ago, and I've been extremely happy with it. Up here, I got a switch. If I turn this on right here, the red light doesn't turn on. Oh, there it is. I actually have a DC to DC charger right here, and that DC to DC charger pulls power from the batteries on the truck, which we don't use that often, but every once in a while we have the option if we need to. So we just keep that off most of the time. Anyways, back to the AC unit, and then I'll get into the solar and stuff in a second. So here's the controller for the AC. Now, initially this was actually located right here. And so I had to solder up a pigtail to extend all the wires for this thing to run down here, all the way through here, and up through the back of here to get up to there. But it worked, so pretty happy with that. So we can turn this on, and you'll see, you can actually see the amperage usage charge. So the negative means we're charging. So right now we're still kind of charging from the solar panels. The compressor is not kicked on yet. It'll kick on in a second. There we go, there's the compressor, it's kicked on. So we're about 22, 23 amps. Now this will increase once it's kind of fully charged up. It'll be around between 50 to as high as maybe 70 amps, depending on things. Part of that high amperage is because of this restriction. Again, we're gonna deal with that later. But I think on average, this thing probably pulls about 60 amps. And I hope if I remove that restriction, it's actually gonna improve. So here we have our controls for our fan speed. You'll notice the Chinese characters. It is what it is. I can't fix anything. And the other thing is it's in Celsius. There doesn't appear to be a setting for Fahrenheit, which kind of sucks, but I'll just put a little chart over here for the future. There's also, so this is like the cold mode, and then there's like an eco mode here, and then there's like a nighttime, which I'm wondering if like maybe this has a delay or something. I'm not positive. And then I have no clue what that means. It looks like a little Superman. You can't even see it because of the camera, sorry guys. And then there's just airflow here. But we're gonna put it on AC. And so it's currently running and everything. Now I got a vent that's coming out here. It blows here. And then we got another vent that's over here. Now, initially when I was doing this project, I actually wanted to try to route the tubing up to blow there down. That would be the most ideal. All right, I got cut off mid-sentence. GoPro camera overheated. Go figure. All right, anyways, what I was pointing out was initially I was gonna run one of my vents, this one, actually up there. And to do that, I'd have to run tubing down there and through there, which that would have been kind of okay, but to get it through here would have been really complex because there's just not enough space between this and everything. I had ideas on how I could do it, but I kind of ran out of motivation to do it. And honestly, this is working pretty good. Yes, ideally you would put this up in the ceiling, and we may still do that in the future, but for now, it's good enough for what I need for this year. I would have liked to have actually put the other AC vent that's right here over there on the front. And that would have been the most beneficial because at night you would have nice cold air blowing on you if you're running the AC unit at night. So this is basically it. The nice thing about this, it's nice and quiet. So I'm going to put these panels back on here. And I'm not sure how noticeable this will necessarily be, but hopefully it kind of shows on camera. Put that there. Put that there, and we'll stick, whoops, this there. All right, now look at our amp usage. We're about 37 amps, still climbing. It'll probably, like I said, it'll probably get up to 40, 50, maybe even 60 amps, which is fine. So that is basically the major project. And our use scenario, I should explain this because a lot of people, like if you live in the South and you're hot and humid, you may not want to do this upgrade. Reason being is because this is a 7,000 BTU unit, but the way I have it is not running at its most efficient setup. These are kind of made for like conversion vans, and that would sit on the floor, and then you would exhaust out the bottom, which actually has its own complications, but you don't have the long kind of exhaust lead that I have, which I think is it's really restrictive, and it's driving the amperage. It is a what they call a digital or frequency driven motor, so it's a variable speed. So that's why you'll see like that amperage draw up over a little bit of time, because the compressor is starting to work harder and harder as it is trying to maintain its balance and everything like that. Really happy with this. It came out really well. There's still some tweaks and stuff we'll do to it. But a lot of people ask, because again, I've been teasing some of these upgrades as pictures on some of the forums and stuff, and so I'll figure, well, I'll show this. Now, this gets into our next upgrade, which I'm going to talk about here, but I'm going to cut the video and then come back. Okay, so the old AC unit used to sit right here, and you can even see the dirt outline. And now obviously I have a solar panel that's on the back side of this, and I put the solar panel on first on the roof and thought, you know what, if someone steps on that, there's nothing here, they're just gonna fall through. So I added this piece of wood. It's not super strong, it's more like an emergency, so the idea is not to be walking on this, but if you stepped on it, it's not going to be the end of the world. Now you're probably noticing I got a couple of bare wires here, and yep, I need to actually cap these things and cover them up. It'll be on the future to-do list for sure. But the question is, what am I going to do to this? Now, this is another project. I just have not finished it by the time I'm recording this video. But what I came up with is a ceiling fan type system. I'm going to use 4 computer 120 millimeter case fans along with a computer fan case controller type of module. Maybe I'll try and throw a picture of that in here too from the 3D models. I just haven't gotten this yet, but the idea being here is that I'm going to actually have some airflow inside that I can kind of move the air in the camper itself, because honestly most of the cold air is going to the feet first. As the camper cools off, obviously it's going to get colder and colder higher up, but we want to have some airflow going on up here to kind of just mix things and get that circulation going. So future project on that to be finished at some point, and you guys will see that because I'll have it done probably by the time I'm actually doing the full videos of how I did all these projects. All right, so that was the one major project, and I got one bonus one. I didn't think I was going to get it done. I was thinking about it. I wanted to do it, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be possible. But that is a battery upgrade. So let me show you what's going on outside. Okay, so I'm on the outside of the camper. Now, initially, the camper had just a regular lead acid battery, and that used to live down here. And at one point, I upgraded it to a Battleborn 100 amp hour battery about 5 years ago. And that battery worked really, really well. I was really, really happy with it. And I didn't really have a reason to upgrade it up until the point where I did the AC conversion. It was 100 amp hours, and it pretty much did everything I needed for it. And it fit nicely in the stock location, so there wasn't a bunch of like weird rewiring and weird stuff like that. It did actually run the AC unit. I think I did a test where it ran it for at least an hour, maybe even a little bit more. I think I stopped it before the battery actually went dead. But you know, really good performance. But that being said, it wasn't going to be enough for kind of our use scenario, so I decided to upgrade. And I was keeping an eye on battery deals on Amazon. It is Amazon Prime Day. Let me turn this camera. There you guys go. You can see me a little bit better. For Amazon Prime Day. And I found two 380 amp hour deep cycle lithium, lithium iron phosphate batteries. I think that's the chemical makeup. And they were like $440 a piece, which is just insanely a good deal. Now, full caveat, these are made in China batteries. They're not like a Battleborn, which is made in USA, although I believe the cells for a Battleborn, I'm not really sure where the cells for a Battleborn is actually made. But if I had to pick on quality, yes, the Battleborns are going to be superior for sure. But the deal is too good to pass up. These come with a 1-year warranty, so if I have any issues with them in the first year, I'll be able to hopefully get it resolved. So that being said, here they are. So you can see here, LiFEPO4, I think that's lithium iron phosphate for battery. There's the model. The company's called Chins. This is where it was made, all that sort of fun stuff, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, two of them. And so in order to fit these in, obviously, I pulled out my gen set. And honestly, the gen set, it was loud, it was noisy, it sucked propane like crazy, so there's no point in using it. We only had like 40 hours on that generator, and I think the generator had to have been at least 15 years old. We would use it to run the microwave. That was about it. And I mean, you could run the AC unit from the generator, but it wasn't ideal at all, because the propane, it would just suck propane and the generator would get too hot, and it would just be really loud and noisy. So pulled that out about 2 days ago, and these fit in beautifully right in this compartment. Technically could even go a little bit bigger. I think they have some 300 amp hour batteries, you know, but honestly for the price, this was perfect. Here's all my wiring and everything. So these are in parallel, so this is a 12-volt system. I'm going from my positive up there into my 100 amp circuit breaker, and then down into my bus bar here, and that kind of splits everything out to various parts. So like these thick ones are going to my inverter, I'll show that in a second, and then these red and black ones, these are coming from my solar panels from the charge controller and everything. And then I have my shunt. This is the shunt that I talked to you and showed you guys earlier, and then all my negative stuff. So when I want to store the setup, all I got to do is just pop the circuit breaker, and everything's just connected. Now right now I have some foam in here, and that'll keep it from moving around. This is also some non-stick, And then I also insulated my door panel, or my compartment panel, whatever, to try and keep it warm. I don't camp in really extremely cold weather. If I did, these are not, they don't have a heat or anything in them, but I could probably put in like a little heater or something like that and keep this compartment warm enough if that was actually a need. So to combine, this is 760 amp hours worth of battery. With my 400 watts, my math, it's probably going to take about 10 days of charging nonstop before these things are completely charged up. But this should be able to run the AC unit in the camper for at least 12 hours if I ever had to, if not longer. So let me go inside real quick. Let me talk about that to explain kind of the thinking and how or why I did it the way I did it. Okay, so I'm back in the camper here, and what I want to do is I want to explain why I do these conversions kind of the way that I did. Now, I should explain, I live in California, so our temperatures are relatively moderate. We don't see a lot of high heat. Well, it does get hot in the summer, I'll admit that, but we don't see a lot of high humidity. In our camping styles, we're pretty active, so unless it's raining, we're not really hanging out inside the camper. We'll cook in here, we'll eat in here, but for the most part, we like to be outside enjoying the scenery and the nature and everything wherever we're at. So in that regards, having, well, let me give you, go back and explain the scenario. So we went camping up, I think it's called Lake Siskiyou, and it's up near Redding, California. It's north of Lake Shasta. It was about 3 years ago. And it was hot. And on top of that, there's all these forest fires, or like surrounded by 4 forest fires. It was one of the worst camping experiences. It was great for family and stuff like that, don't get me wrong. But as far as like comfort level, it was one of the roughest camping experiences we'd ever been on. Where we were camping was in the tent section. That's one of the things I like about campers like this, is that they'll let you actually park in tent sections because you're fully self-supported and you're just the length of a regular vehicle. But you weren't allowed to run a generator. And I wouldn't run the generator anyways, because again, it was noisy and it ran propane, and it would have emptied the bottle, a full bottle of propane, in probably a day, probably even half a day of trying to run the AC unit off the generator. Again, the old AC unit was right above my head. And so that got me thinking like, oh man, how could we do this better? Now, for us, you know, we were outside of the camper most of the day. And the thing about these Bigfoot campers is they're really well insulated, but the problem is that throughout the day, the entire camper gets warmer and warmer and warmer. The camper gets heat soaked, and there's a lot of heat. And even if you run the vents over all the windows and stuff like that, there's all this kind of like latent heat that's inside the camper that you can't get rid of. And so I thought, man, it'd be really nice to have an AC unit that could run for an hour, maybe 2 hours a night, just to keep the camper nice and cool while you're going to sleep, and being able to do that without a generator. And hence, that's why we did this upgrade, because now we do have an AC unit blowing out nice cold air. And it'll probably take like a half hour or so to cool down the camper. I have not measured those things. Those are all things I'll be finding out on a trip coming up. But the point is that we have the capacity to do it. And right now, I set this kind of on high. We're pulling about 55 amps. So with the 760 amp hours of battery, I guess in theory I could run this for around 12 to 14 hours, which would be way more than I need. Now, obviously, if you're in the south or something like that, this conversion may not necessarily make sense, because this is not the coldest AC unit. Again, it'd be colder if it was blowing from up top. There's all sorts of efficiency issues and stuff. It is a 7,000 BT unit, but it's kind of hampered a little bit by the way it is installed. But we're not in the south. We're not in really humid environments or hot environments. We just need the AC from time to time, again, at night, or maybe if we're at a rest stop or something like that, and we're traveling and we want to cool down the camper for a little bit so we can have lunch in here and enjoy some cool air. So this scenario here, I think, is going to be really ideal for our personal needs. Now, for all of you guys out there that have like, well, that's not going to be cold enough, or, you know, I need an AC all the time, blah blah blah. Yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. That's your setup. You go do your project the way you want. No harm, no foul. I will say that for long term, if I was to go like to the south or someplace where I knew there was going to be more AC need than what the camper could actually provide with the solar and the batteries. The plan is to get a small 1000 watt inverter generator, and then I'll get a AC to DC, like a 100 amp hour charger, and that should be able to run all of this just fine for as long as we need to, as long as we either have the generator plugged in or plugged in with shore power. So that's what we do if we're going to be in a campground for a long time. We wanted to keep the camper cold all the time. We would use that setup. I don't currently have it installed yet. It will be an add-on project, probably be done by the time I'm releasing all these videos and stuff. But that's kind of where we're going. All right, so I got one more upgrade for you guys. I'm going to show you that in just a second. I'm going to stop the video here and then come back. Okay, so obviously there's something missing in here. I don't know if you guys caught it or not, but with the AC unit being here, this used to be where the furnace was. And obviously the furnace had to come out in order to do this upgrade. And I ended up replacing my furnace with, you may have already seen this because I already showed this area, but this is an Olympian Wave 3 catalytic heater. So this uses propane, but it doesn't burn propane. It's like a catalyst, chemical reaction. I don't know, look it up, see how it works. But it's basically like 99% efficient, and it's a radiant heater. So it's a little different. Like a furnace is like forced air. You got air blowing through it and circulates, and that's really great for heating up the camper really fast, which can be handy a lot of times, especially if you're like getting to your camping spot late at night and it's really cold and you want to heat up the camper real nice, real quick. This won't necessarily do that, but you can leave this run all night long and it just barely sips on the propane. It's super efficient. And I put it underneath here so that again, it's 99% efficient, but any gases that there might be is going to vent right out the stove vent. So this was a really nice upgrade to do. We're gonna see how it works. I actually, on a previous trip, I used like a Mr. Buddy heater, and I actually set it here, and it warmed up over time the whole camper, and I just left it running. You can even leave them running at night, although I think I turn it off at night just to be safe. But the thing is, like, it's a constant heat, and so you can kind of, it balances out. With the furnace, it would cycle on to warm things up, get like stifling hot, and then it would turn off, and then the camper would get cold again because it's only warming up the air. It's not warming up the rest of the woodwork and everything. And these, what's nice, are radiant heaters, so it actually works by warming up the wood, the panels, everything around it, and then that in turn warms up the air. So pretty excited about this. Again, we live in California, so we don't see super cold temperatures. If you were in Alaska or somewhere up north, yeah, I get it, this would not necessarily be what you want. Maybe you would go with the diesel heater or something like that. But for our scenario, I think this is going to work really well. All right, so that almost concludes pretty much all the major modifications I've done to this camper. I have one more to show you. The women here, they might actually really appreciate this. My wife loves it. So that is our pantry, and we did a modification here. So here's our pantry with all these shelving and everything, little odds and ends. But I set this up, we got a little lock here. Pull that, and the entire unit comes out. And now you have easy access to all of your pantry from the side. So this was a fun little project. I did it about 4 years ago. I haven't even bothered painting or anything like that. I probably should at some point, but I haven't. Been too busy kind of doing other things in life. These shelves you can move them up and down, so if you want to kind of size it accordingly, you can also do that. But all the weight is supported actually on this side. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 slide rails. And it was pretty hard to get it in here. Not impossible, but it just took some work. But this has actually been a really great upgrade. We love it. Increases the usable storage capacity in if you're cooking, you can grab whatever you need. The only thing that I need to do this, and I haven't done it after 4 years, I really should, is I need a way to latch it, because it'll actually, well, it kind of stuck there, which is fine. But if the slope of the camper isn't completely flat, it tends to actually kind of go in on its own. But, and then of course, occasionally we'll forget to do this little latch here, and we'll go for a drive and it opens up. So and it's not perfect, but honestly it's been a great upgrade for us. All right, so I thought I was done recording all the upgrades and everything, and I forgot one thing. So real quick, I want to show this, and it's actually not to do with my truck, it's actually to do with my trailer. So let me turn the camera around and I'll show you what I got going on over here. So one of the things that I do a lot is I take the ATVs on trips and stuff, and so I use these, well, ATVs, Honda Odysseys. I use this trailer to haul my stuff, and I also have, you can see a little cargo trailer there as well. And typically you would have what's called a super truss system in order to be able to carry or tow a trailer right here with a camper. And on mine I did something actually a little bit different. So if you take a look underneath here, you'll see what's going on here. So my tongue and hitch are over here, as you would expect to see them, and I have this long boom, and this actually telescopes in and out as you need to. So you can see there's a little pin right there. You can pull the pin, the whole thing can slide right on in if you need to. And so I can tow this with my red truck if I'm doing a little trip that I'm doing locally, or if I'm using the big truck and I want to tow, I got this set up. Now typically you'd have the super truss, which would actually extend all the way back to here, and then you'd have your setup over here. The reason why I didn't want to do that is because when I go in the sand a lot, you don't want to have something hanging off the back that could drag in the sand. And so I did this again. I did it first to my cargo trailer many years ago. I'll actually show you what it looks like over here. There's my red truck I talk about every once in a while. And here's what it looks like. So I got the boom removed actually currently, because we're just parking the trailer there, and you can see underneath there is the actual tongue and boom and everything. And so I did this, I don't know, 6+ years ago to this trailer, and I really liked it. It worked really well. So I decided, hey, let's do it to this one as well. And so yeah, that's what we did. I've been really happy with it. Did this modification maybe about 1.5 years ago, and it's worked really fantastic. So that should cover almost all the upgrades that I got. Hope you guys enjoyed. Okay, I didn't show the inverter, so I should show that real quick. So here we have a 2000 watt inverter. So we can turn that sucker on. And let's see here. There you go. There's the inverter. This is an older one. I've had this for many years. It actually came from another camper I bought, but it seems to work really nicely. Now, one of the things I did do is I actually wired this up to actually power all of our house sockets. So that's where this plug is coming from here. And you can see like our microwave is on. And ideally it's supposed to power the microwave. And yesterday I tried it and it worked fine. And today the inverter kept on kicking, tripping a light. So I gotta look into that. But once we figure that out, you'll be able to run the microwave, turn off this light, from the inverter. All the outlets and everything, they're hot, which is nice, which means that those are hot. So I'm gonna turn this off so I don't accidentally shock myself. But yeah, so that's a really nice little upgrade there. And then I'll take you real quick over my control panel, because I only showed a little bit of it, but this is obviously the AC unit you already seen, and this is my shunt battery meter over here. I do have a 65 watt USB port. I can actually power my laptop off of this, along with a they call it a QC 3.0. It's like USB 3.0 quick charger as well. I got a 12 volt here. This is actually for my my Wilson Electronics cell phone signal booster, so I can turn it on here. And then over here I just have, ooh, I gotta get the dust out of here. There's quite a bit. Some more USB ports. Up here is my solar charge controller. This is a 30 amp. It is set up on a dual setup, so it'll charge the camper batteries first, and then once the camper batteries are topped off, whenever that happens, like 10 days from now, it'll actually switch over and start charging the truck batteries. So the truck batteries always stay topped off, which is really, really nice. When you're camping, you don't have to worry about your truck battery ever being dead or anything like that, unless you have a really big short. So that's basically all the electronics in the camper. So one of the benefits to all this was not just in the enjoyment and the better usability for us as a family, but also in the weight savings. And I didn't really set out to make that a priority of this project, but it ended up being a result of some of the upgrades that we did do. So let me just take you through some of these weight savings real quick so you have an idea of what I was able to do. So the original stove oven that was in the camper weighed 60 pounds, and replacing it with the 2-burner Rec Pro stovetop, that weighs 15.7 pounds. So the savings there was 44.3 pounds of weight. So that's pretty good. The AC unit on the roof was 103 pounds. Replace it with an AC unit that's 44 pounds. That's say 59 pounds. And the best thing about it is it's not 103 pounds that's up on the roof that's so high up that gives a lot of sway and everything. So that's a nice savings. The next major weight savings, the furnace was 23.8 pounds. We replace it with the Olympic Wave 3 Catalytic heater, which weighs 9.3 pounds. And that saves us about 14.5 pounds in weight. And then lastly, well, technically not lastly, but for this list, we removed the jacks. Combined, all 4 jacks weighed about 165 pounds. We took that to 0 pounds. So all in all, that was 282 pounds, 282.8 pounds, almost 283 pounds that we removed off of the camper. Now, the camper from the factory, I actually have the weights here. They have the measurement here. It was 1,240 kilograms, which works out to 2,733 pounds. Now, the tag itself says 2,906 pounds. That's what's on the outside of the camper. And it says 50 gallons of water and 20 pounds of propane, but 50 gallons of water is 417 pounds. And propane, 20 pounds plus the bottle is 37 pounds. So I'm not exactly sure, but I think the 2,906 is the weighted. It's probably the fully weighted, kitted out. I also have this tag here, this paperwork here. And this actually has all the different weights of all kind of the equipments and everything. So here's the camper base weight was 2,470 pounds. And then it has all the different things that was added on. And it has a subtotal of additions, and that comes to the 2,733 pounds, which is what we saw over here. So I'm going to go with this 2,906 pounds. I'm not entirely sure where that came from, but just as a percentage of weight reduction, it comes to about 9.5, almost 10% of the weight was reduced through these projects. Now, the one thing I'm not talking about is the removal of the genset and the replacement of the batteries. So the batteries themselves, each battery weighs about 74 pounds, 75 pounds. So it's about 150 pounds in batteries. And the generator, I want to say it weighs around 120 pounds, 115, 120 pounds. It was pretty heavy. But with the generator being gone, I can actually drop down from 2 bottles of propane down to 1 bottle of propane, and that would save me an extra 37 pounds on that. So removing the generator and putting the batteries in, I'm going to call it kind of a wash. I'd have to actually do the math to figure out exactly what the difference is, but I think it's pretty close to being a wash. If I only did 1 battery, which would still be pretty sufficient to do what I'm doing, or didn't even upgrade and just stick with my 100 amp hour Battleborn, which could run this AC unit for about an hour, you know, I could have saved by getting rid of the gen set still 150 pounds off of that. So obviously I didn't do that, so I'm not even counting that on weight. We're going to go with a total weight savings again of 283 pounds coming off the camper. Again, that's about 10% of the camper weight. So pretty happy with that. I didn't need to do it. The truck can handle it. It's a dually. It It is an older dually, and I know that the payload capacities on those are a little bit lower, but I am pretty comfortable with my weights. Now, I haven't weighed the camper, all right? So those of you saying, "Oh, your camper is, you know, a lot heavier, blah, blah, blah." Yeah, you're probably right. I haven't weighed the camper for many, many years. I do have some tags and some math and stuff like that. I have to figure it out. But just going by what the factory says it was when it came off the factory floor, and I don't have any reason to believe why they would lie. That's what these numbers are based off of. So hope that guys helped you guys out to understand 10% of the weight come off the camper, which isn't insignificant, and then it just expanded the usability of the camper way better for our use. So hope you guys enjoyed that. All right, so time to wrap this thing up. I hope you guys enjoyed all that. Again, the longer videos showing most of these projects in progress will be coming out later this fall. So I will say the one thing about this is if I had tried to do this all in 1 week, it would have been overwhelming. What I did is I just took a little piece at a time. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And I would think about it at night, the day before, a couple days before, figure out this is how I'm gonna do it. And then I just go out there and I just do that one a little bit. So all this was basically 1, maybe 2 hours at a time. I also had to watch our twin toddlers, give my wife a break and everything like that. She's been super awesome and super patient with me throughout this process. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed all that. If you enjoyed it, please do consider giving a like, and if you want, you can subscribe. Most of my YouTube channel is about Honda Odyssey related content, but I do also do stuff that's just interesting to me, and this was interesting to me, so that's why I did it. If you haven't taken on projects like this, you know, don't be afraid. Go for it. Go do it. You know, it does take time, planning, it does take money and stuff like that, but the satisfaction of getting all this stuff done in the end is just amazing. I can't believe I'm at this point, and I look forward to finishing the rest of it with the painting and all the little things that are not done. And it's just taking little steps here and there. So with that said, thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, take care and stay safe.